Hey guys, hope you're well. Just wanted to give you an update. Some people have been asking me to analyze about the latest development with DOA, and it looks like more likely than not that he is going to get his bail revoked and that he is actually heading to jail. I would be shocked if during the hearing, which is scheduled for the 22nd of this month, I would be shocked if DOA's lawyers are successful, and perhaps they'll try to put forth a defense that DOA is this popular streamer, and if you're a public figure on the internet, you're naturally going to have a lot of enemies, so it's a lot of enemies stacking up to essentially attack him. That might be the defense, but, DOA has a lot of egg on his face because he has proven himself to be, yet again, his own worst enemy. And I made a video last time about him yelling at Becky, coming up close to her in person, antagonizing her, perhaps for good reason, but whether it's for good or bad reason. The fact that you created this human interaction, not just online, but in person, would strengthen somebody being able to talk about you as a character witness and talk about your character. So already that looked bad, but I didn't think necessarily too much would happen because I figured if that was a one isolated incident, then that's a one isolated incident. That's not really enough to try to go to the district attorney and try to get the bail revoked. The problem is it might be fine with one incident, but it might not be okay with 2, 3, or even 4. That is when there's a bigger issue. So one of the main reasons that DOA has a bail revocation hearing is his detractors feel like he has harassed and doxed a number of people. Now, you talk about legality arguments, what truly is harassing, what truly is doxing, that's more of a debatable thing. But when you are supposed to essentially be silent about any topics involving your case and you're supposed to be squeaky clean, all of that can and will be held against you. So a lot of this centers around directives of harassment, and specifically DOA won't let go of Rib Guy, even though he donated quite a bit of money to people, and some people have their issues with him. Some people think he was kind of financially responsible for a chunk of the success of the movement. So however you feel about him, DOA has been very specific in trying to get his information revealed and trying to very specifically dox Rib Guy. So already you go from harassment to trying to dox somebody, which is a criminal violation or arguably criminal misdemeanor if you could prove it as such. So that doesn't look good. And then there's also directives of harassment and defamatory accusations. DOA keeps trying to say a lot of this centers around Crackhead Kenny. Of course, you want to pin your lack of success on somebody who is irrational, somebody who a lot of people dislike anyway. But I think Crackhead Kenny is an insignificant part of this whole reason of why he's getting this hearing. I think it barely has anything to do with Crackhead Kenny. The other third character involved is Lara, and him essentially making defamatory statements that could actually inhibit her employment. And the biggest defamatory statement that DOA has made. It's one thing if you call somebody "see you next Tuesday," if you call them a bitch, whatever. That isn't necessarily illegal. It's one thing if you constantly insult them and say they're an awful person. It's another thing if you accuse them of being a Scientologist, if you accuse them of working with Kendrick Moxon, if you accuse them of working with anybody involved in the law side of Scientology to get DOA in jail. Then all of a sudden you're saying, no, somebody has an allegiance and a deep connection with an organization that could inhibit her trustworthiness or could inhibit any future opportunities of potential employment. So if they're pegged as being an employee of Scientology, then that might make it more difficult, or even an ally or a secret worker of Scientology, then trying to get another job might even be more difficult. So when the insults go away from the range of just calling somebody not nice things to accusing them of very damaging association and very damaging types of work, that's when it gets a lot worse. It's an awkward situation because, as you probably know, Lara is signed up with DOA's bail. Now, she could easily take herself off from that, and DOA himself could be only on the hook. But that's not a great situation either. Now, in terms of what would happen with the bail, essentially, the good news is for Lara or DOA or anybody else, you won't have to pay 100% of the bail. There's no transition even after the hearing that goes from you only have to put up 10% at the moment to having to put up 100%. So at least that won't happen. But what will essentially happen is the judge will make a ruling on the bail. He'll either say that, as I said before, the attorney will make a claim. This is all freedom of speech stuff. This is essentially mutually assured destruction, where these 2 various or 3 or 4 various public figures are in a verbal battle of fisticuffs, and that's kind of the mutual destruction understanding of these players involved. And that could be a legitimate, I don't think it'll work, but it could be a legitimate defense, right? Rib guy, they could make that, he wants to get him doxxed, but was he actually doxxed? Cause and effect, there is a difference on that. But in terms of the results of the bail, so yes, it could get either revoked, or the revocation attempt could be denied. If the revocation attempt is denied, then in terms of paying the bail back, you have at least until after a ruling on the hearing of the case. So, for example, if DOA is found not guilty, then Lara or anybody else or DOA would not be responsible for the rest of the bail. They wouldn't be responsible for the subsequent 90% because DOA is found not guilty. Now, this is why Lara might want to try to get herself off of the co-signer of the bail, which she could easily and legally do. If DOA is found guilty, then the bail still stands. And essentially, the moment you're found guilty, you probably have 2 or 3 weeks or something to pay it back. But you will need to pay back the subsequent 90%. Now, on this ruling, none of that changes. There's not an additional fund that would be needed for because the bail was revoked, and the bail is revoked, and then it just still stands until, and DOA is sitting there in jail until the actual trial date. Now, here's the other question. What happens if the bail is revoked? If the bail is revoked, then and there, if DOA shows up to court, I don't know, man. I mean, if I were him, these are minor charges, but he's looking at a lot of time in jail. I might go to Mexico and then go out to Belize where they don't have an extradition treaty. That's just me. But if DOA does not go to Mexico or Belize and he shows up to the court case and they revoke his bail, then, just kind of like Diddy, DOA is in trial until there is a ruling on his case. Ironically, DOA wanted a fast and speedy trial, which I thought was reckless and dumb. After he's utilized his attorney and found an attorney in Cape Lovitz, they're moving a lot more slowly. Now, it's great to move slowly if you're out of jail. If you're in jail, already there have been so many motions of continuances, of wanting to create continuances, of not wanting to set a trial date quite yet. Now that is a bad thing for DOA. So that certainly doesn't look good in that regard. And it's really unknown, since there's so many continuances being requested, when there will actually be a trial. I will be there for trial. I'm not going to fly in for the 22nd of DOA's thing, and nor for his next development, because it'll probably just be a hearing. But my guess is there won't be an actual trial. There won't be an actual trial until October or November would be my guess. So, listen, if DOA gets his bail revoked and he is in jail, he is probably comfortably at least in jail until the end of October. I think the end of October earliest. I think realistically there'll probably be a trial in November, and, maybe he get out in early December. But it's going to be a very, very long time. And he could have just shut the hell up, not talked about anything. If they had the one Becky incident alone, that probably wouldn't have been enough. But DOA, and I'm sure what Cape Lovitz realizes, is this is a unique case, and this is some corruption involved, where the prosecutors seem to have the ear of Scientology. They seem to be listening to them. And what I mean by that is I've witnessed a myriad, at least 3, conversations of either Kendrick Moxon or his assistant Jennifer, with them either introducing themselves to a team of the DA that they haven't met before, or directly speaking to the head prosecutor. If they hadn't had a relationship before, at each hearing they have established a new relationship with each member of the team. Last time it was Jennifer saying, "Thanks for making this easy on us." Those were her exact words. And also her and Kendrick introducing themselves to a member of the team. And he seemed to be responsive in delivering to them what they could deliver to them. So that's not good. A lot of this stuff can be overblown. And since you have the DA essentially allowing the Scientology side to allow themselves to be privy to what the Scientology side is saying and to react to that and to take seriously all of their claims, a lot of this might be BS. Is he really doxing? Has anybody actually been doxed? Has Lara lost an actual job from the defamation? No, no, and no. But unfortunately, I don't think the LA prosecutors team plays by the rules. And I think they're probably trying to make Scientology happy, trying to set an example. So a lot of this shit will be dramatically overblown. But it might not matter. If you're looking at the reality of what is the actual result is going to be, I'd say highly likely he'll get his bail revoked. You never know. But again, this is not just based on one specific moment. This is based on quite a few. On a separate court of law, is any of this provable to actual defamation, to actual doxing? Probably not. But, you don't need to really prove it. You just need to say it's happened and there's been a direct pattern of intended doxing and intended harassment because, this is not a guilty beyond a reasonable doubt in a court of law. This is, are you behaving in the way that your bail stipulations require you to behave? And are you violating the stipulation? And is it arguable that you're violating the stipulation? Sure. But the fact that you're sort of doing it and you have witnesses means you're likely to get your bail revoked. Because crimes don't need to be provable necessarily you don't have time to prove the crimes or the violations when you have a hearing for the revocation of bail. You don't have time for that. So there's less of an onus to actually prove beyond a reasonable doubt, but just to say that something exists, that a pattern exists, that this specific behavior exists, and therefore, at least in this immediate hearing, in the immediate future, he violated the bail. Now, maybe that can be litigated later on. Maybe you could do a lawsuit saying it wasn't violated, but there is no formal, there will be a little bit of a hearing, but there won't be a real formal hearing in terms of the violations. The attorney will make his case. It'll be quick. The whole thing should be no more than 20 minutes, and that will be the result. So, again, the guy's just made things a million times worse for himself. Now, is this going to look worse in his case? I don't necessarily think so, even if you get your bail revoked. The attorney, once you have time to prove all this, the attorney could just say, that this is a game of mutually assured destruction, that all of these were public figures kind of being involved with each other. So that's an argument they're going to make. I don't think it's going to work. But I don't think DOA's case is looking worse necessarily. But you don't know you don't know how he's going to self-destruct or throw up on himself in the subsequent X amount of months. It's probably better for DOA. It's probably a lot better DOA should wish he goes to jail because then he's not going to mess up and harass people and threaten people and defame people and make things a million times worse for his actual case. So maybe in terms of DOA winning the case, it's best if he's in jail. Because I don't think he's mature enough or old enough psychologically. He's more like a 14-year-old. I don't think he's mature enough or old enough emotionally to just shut the hell up. I don't think he just doesn't have that capability. The reflex is to antagonize and attack. And of course he has his strong supporters. And I still think the case is bullshit. But guys, I'm going to analyze when somebody's being an idiot and is being a child. I'm going to say that. And when somebody is damaging their case and it's quite obvious, I don't care if I'm going to. I think DOA accused me of having sex with snakes. Hey, here's the good news. DOA could say as much as he wants about me. I am not going to go to the DA and say that I've been defamed. So, fair game. And he can use whatever footage he wants of mine. But other people are. And then he also had to analyze, that's a bummer for the people that are really going out to try to hurt his case. I don't think Lara's doing that, though, necessarily. It was mainly Becky and some other people. Is that cool? Though some people say if people like Becky felt slighted, then they have a right to make the guy's life more difficult if he's making her life more difficult, I suppose. But, that'll be a big thing, too. Who wants to bring what to the prosecutors, right? But there's enough from other people to bring, and Lara doesn't have to bring the attacks herself. Becky or somebody else or somebody could bring all of that to the prosecutors and say, this is what also happened with Lara. So the main person doesn't necessarily have to bring forth the evidence, which is why I think the guy is pretty screwed. But I'm sure he'll say some angry things about me, and that's fine. And then people will get mad at me when I say maybe he'll be winning, or he'll be doing a good job once I actually attend the trial. He might not be. He might completely throw up on himself and suck. But people will get mad at me if I say he has some good momentum. People get mad at me if I say it's a bad one. I don't give a shit, guys. I'm just giving the reality. And if you hate the reality and you're one of his supporters who, there's DOA Christ and there's everyone against him was evil, then go fuck yourself. And then if you think, or if you think DOA should be in jail for the rest of his life and that I don't think he should be in jail, and I disagree with that too. But I'm just going to give you the honest analysis of the case. And guys, at this point, I'm doing I really don't care. You think I care? I read the comments, and I used to respect you, and then you said something mean about DOA. You don't know anything about. You're not a real journalist. You don't know anything about why do I care? About some random zombie cult person commenting who doesn't know anything about journalism. Do I care about somebody's opinion about journalism if they're amateurs and know nothing about journalism? No. So some of you guys think I used to like you, but now I lost my respect for you. I don't care. Keep saying it. It's not going to make me, you think it's going to make me cry and it's going to make me sad. It's not. I know that I'm giving the truth and I'm an objective source because I get people yelling at me and saying I'm a piece of shit reporter from both sides. So when both sides say you're not doing it, what that means is both sides are saying, you are not sucking up to my side enough. You are not broadcasting my propaganda. To be a good journalist in my eyes is you have to be a propagandist. I'm not a propagandist. I am somebody who analyzes things objectively and who analyzes the truth. If you don't like that, there's the door. But I'm going to keep giving honest opinion, and it's going to change. Sometimes I'm going to say DOA was smart about things. Sometimes I'm going to say he's a stupid idiot. That's just the reality. If you don't like the reality, do unsubscribe. But Henry is going to be at the hearing on the 22nd, so he'll have an update. Special thanks to Nora Henry, who gave me some key information about this. Henry's going to give me an update about that, and Minty has her thing 2 days later. I'm not going to go to any of these, but Henry will also be there and will be able to give me the notes. And Henry is another dude that I just trust. I think he's a pretty objective source. So I will at least have a rundown on Minty and DOA next week, even though I will not be there. But once a trial starts for DOA, I will be there. So see you guys soon. Bye-bye.